Gary Sinise thought he was playing a character. He had no idea that character was about to follow him for the rest of his life. In Forrest Gump, Sinise played Lieutenant Dan, a wounded Vietnam veteran who loses his legs and struggles to rebuild his life. The movie ended. The cameras stopped. But for Gary, Lieutenant Dan didn't. Because something happened after the film that Hollywood could never have scripted. Real wounded veterans began approaching him. Real military families knew his face. And instead of moving on to the next role, Gary walked toward them. What followed became bigger than a movie, bigger than an acting career, and bigger than most people who recognize his face have any idea. Stay until the end, because decades after Forrest Gump, Gary Sinise would help build something for severely wounded veterans that makes the words Lieutenant Dan mean something completely different. This is where the movie ends and the real story begins. Gary Sinise's connection to veterans didn't begin with Forrest Gump. Years earlier, he had already encountered Vietnam veterans through his work in theater and had developed a deep respect for their experiences. But in 1994, everything changed. Forrest Gump became a cultural phenomenon, and Lieutenant Dan became unforgettable. At first, he's angry, broken, convinced the future he imagined has been stolen from him. Then we watch him rebuild. For audiences, it was a powerful character arc. For some veterans, it felt personal. Sinise was nominated for an Academy Award. Hollywood celebrated the performance, but another audience was beginning to embrace him. And their reaction mattered far more than any trophy. Veterans began recognizing Gary, not simply as an actor, as Lieutenant Dan. Imagine the strange responsibility of that. You portray someone's pain on screen, and then people who have actually lived versions of that pain tell you the character meant something to them. Gary could have accepted the compliments and continued with his career. Nobody would have blamed him. Instead, he kept showing up. He supported veterans organizations, visited wounded service members, spent time with military families. And after the attacks of September 11, 2001, that commitment grew dramatically. American service members were deploying overseas. Others were coming home wounded. Families were carrying enormous burdens. Gary decided that simply saying, "Thank you for your service," wasn't enough. He wanted those words to become action. And here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Gary Sinise formed a band. Its name, the Lieutenant Dan Band. He played bass, and they began performing for military communities, veterans, first responders, and supporters around the world. Military bases, hospitals, USO events, communities far from Hollywood. The fictional Lieutenant Dan had become a bridge connecting Gary Sinise to real people serving their country. But concerts were only the beginning, because the more Gary saw, the harder it became to simply go home. In 2011, he established the Gary Sinise Foundation. Its mission expanded his work supporting veterans, active duty service members, first responders, and their families. One initiative became especially powerful. Imagine surviving catastrophic injuries, then returning home and discovering that your own house has become an obstacle. A doorway too narrow, stairs you can't navigate, a bathroom that requires assistance. Simple daily tasks becoming reminders of what has changed. Through its RISC program, the foundation has provided specially adapted smart homes for severely wounded veterans and first responders. Homes designed around their needs. Wider spaces, accessible features, technology that can restore independence. And suddenly, the meaning of the wheelchair in our story changes. In Forrest Gump, it was part of Gary's costume for the people he later served. Mobility was real life. Gary's work didn't stop with wounded veterans. The foundation has supported first responders, military families, families grieving fallen service members, children who lost a parent in service. Through programs such as Snowball Express, families of fallen military heroes are brought together for experiences designed around connection, remembrance, and support. And there's something deeply fitting about all of this. Gary Sinise became famous portraying a man who believed his life had lost its purpose. Then he spent decades helping real people rediscover independence, community, and hope after life-changing circumstances. That wasn't written into the screenplay. No director shouted action. No Oscar was waiting at the end. He simply kept showing up. Remember what I promised you at the beginning. Lieutenant Dan followed Gary Sinise long after Forrest Gump ended. But not because Gary couldn't escape the character. Because he chose not to. He took the recognition Hollywood gave him and turned it into a doorway. A doorway into military hospitals, veterans communities, concerts, homes built for wounded heroes, families carrying losses most of us can barely imagine. And that changes the meaning of Lieutenant Dan completely. Hollywood gave Gary Sinise a fictional wounded veteran to portray. Real veterans gave him a mission. That's why his greatest legacy may have very little to do with the movies people remember him for. Millions know his face because of Forrest Gump. But thousands of military families know what came after. And perhaps that's the real story behind our thumbnail. This became real. A movie role became a relationship. The relationship became a responsibility. And the responsibility became decades of service. If this story changed the way you see Gary Sinise, subscribe to see Beyond the Spotlight. Because fame tells you why someone became known. We want to know what they did once the world knew their name. And tell us in the comments, who should we uncover next? Your suggestion could become one of our next documentaries. Come back for the next hidden story. Because sometimes the greatest role of someone's life begins after the cameras stop rolling. Every legend has a story. We uncover the one the world rarely sees.